Kate opened her mouth to talk, but Camilla's mocking laughter drowned her out. The sound echoed through the conference room, sharp and cruel, making everyone turn their heads. Kate felt her cheeks burn as she stood frozen at the front of the room, her presentation slides glowing behind her on the screen. She had prepared for weeks, rehearsed every line, but nothing could have prepared her for this moment. Camilla sat in the front row, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against her designer handbag. Her blonde hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders, and her red lipstick seemed to curve into a permanent smirk. She was everything Kate was not. Confident, wealthy, connected to all the right people. When Camilla spoke, people listened. When Kate spoke, people checked their phones. The laughter finally died down, but the damage was done. Mr. Henderson, their department head, cleared his throat uncomfortably from the back of the room. Several colleagues exchanged glances, their expressions a mixture of pity and embarrassment. Kate wanted to disappear, to sink through the floor and never come back. It had started 6 months ago when Kate joined Thompson Marketing Agency. She was fresh out of university, eager and full of ideas. The job market had been brutal, and landing this position felt like winning the lottery. Her mother had been so proud, calling all her relatives to share the good news. Finally, Kate was going somewhere. Camilla had been at the company for 3 years and had made it clear from day one that she ran things. She had taken one look at Kate on her first day, sized her up with those cold blue eyes, and dismissed her with a laugh. Kate thought maybe they had just gotten off on the wrong foot, that things would improve. She was wrong. The bullying started small. Camilla would accidentally spill coffee on Kate's papers. She would schedule meetings during Kate's lunch break and act surprised when Kate showed up hungry. She would take credit for Kate's ideas in front of clients, then smile sweetly and say, Kate must have misremembered who thought of what. Kate had tried to handle it professionally. She documented everything, kept her head down, and focused on her work. But Camilla seemed to take Kate's silence as permission to escalate. The comments became more cutting, the sabotage more obvious, yet somehow Camilla always managed to look innocent when confronted. Today was supposed to be different. Kate had landed a major client all on her own. The Peterson account was worth hundreds of thousands, and Mr. Henderson had been so impressed that he asked Kate to present her strategy to the entire team. It was her chance to prove herself, to show everyone that she belonged here. But Camilla had other plans. Just as Kate began her presentation, explaining the innovative social media campaign she had designed, Camilla raised her hand. Kate paused, thinking it was a question. Instead, Camilla stood up and announced that the whole concept was remarkably similar to a campaign that had failed spectacularly 2 years ago at another agency. Kate tried to explain that her approach was different, that she had researched extensively and adapted the strategy to fit the modern market. But Camilla cut her off with that laugh. That horrible, mocking laugh that made Kate feel small and stupid. The laugh that said Kate was nothing, would always be nothing. Now, as the room fell silent, Kate looked at her notes with blurry eyes. She could feel tears threatening to spill, but she refused to give Camilla that satisfaction. Not here, not in front of everyone. She took a deep breath and tried to continue, but her voice came out shaky and weak. Mr. Henderson stood up and suggested they take a short break. People filed out of the conference room, some avoiding Kate's eyes, others shooting sympathetic glances her way. Camilla sauntered out with her friends, their giggles trailing behind them like poison. Kate gathered her papers with trembling hands. She had worked so hard on this presentation. Every slide had been carefully crafted, every word chosen with precision. The Peterson client had loved her ideas when she pitched them. So why did Camilla have to ruin everything? Marcus, one of the senior designers, approached her quietly. He was in his 40s, had been with the company for over a decade, and usually kept to himself. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and said something that surprised Kate. He told her that he had seen this before, that Camilla did this to anyone she perceived as a threat. That meant Kate was good at her job. Kate looked up at him, confused. How could she be a threat? Camilla was the star of the agency, the one with all the big clients and the fancy awards on her desk. But Marcus shook his head and smiled sadly. He explained that Camilla's success was built on other people's work. She was good at taking credit, at networking and schmoozing clients, but her actual creative skills were limited. That was why she went after people like Kate, people with genuine talent and fresh ideas. Camilla needed to crush them before they could shine too brightly and expose her for what she really was. A pretty face with a loud voice but not much substance underneath. Marcus told Kate to go home for the day to clear her head and think about what she really wanted. Did she want to keep letting Camilla walk all over her? Or was she ready to fight back? The choice was hers, but he wanted her to know that she had allies in the office. Not everyone was fooled by Camilla's act. As Kate left the building that afternoon, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. When she opened it, her blood ran cold. It was a photo of her presentation slides marked up with cruel comments and annotations. The message said that these would be sent to the Peterson client unless Kate withdrew from the account. It was signed with a simple kiss emoji. Kate knew exactly who had sent it. Kate stared at the threatening message on her phone screen until her eyes burned. She was sitting in her small apartment, still wearing her work clothes, unable to move from the couch. The sun had set hours ago, but she had not bothered to turn on any lights. The darkness felt appropriate for how low she had sunk. Her apartment was modest, nothing like the luxury condos that Camilla probably lived in. Kate had decorated it herself with second-hand furniture and plants she kept forgetting to water. There were books stacked on every surface, motivational quotes on the walls that now felt like mockery. One of them read, "Believe in yourself and anything is possible." Kate let out a bitter laugh. She thought about calling her mother but could not bear the disappointment in her voice. Her mother had sacrificed so much to put Kate through university. She worked double shifts at the hospital, skipped vacations, wore the same clothes for years, all so Kate could have opportunities she never had. And now Kate was about to throw it all away because of some bully with a superiority complex. The Peterson account was the biggest thing that had ever happened to Kate's career. Mr. Peterson himself had chosen her after seeing her portfolio online. He had called her creative, insightful, exactly what his company needed. Working with him could open doors Kate had only dreamed of. But if Camilla sent those marked-up slides with all those nasty comments, Mr. Peterson would think Kate was incompetent. He would pull the contract, and worse, he might tell others in the industry. Kate's hands shook as she typed out a response. She wrote that she would step away from the Peterson account, that Camilla could have it. Her finger hovered over the send button for what felt like forever. Then she thought of Marcus's words. Did she really want to keep letting Camilla walk all over her? Was she going to run every time someone tried to push her down? She deleted the message without sending it. Instead, she took screenshots of the threat and saved them to her cloud storage. If Camilla wanted to play dirty, Kate would need evidence. She would need proof of everything Camilla had done. The coffee spills, the stolen ideas, the constant harassment. It was time to build a case. The next morning, Kate arrived at the office early. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but she held her head high. She went straight to Mr. Henderson's office and requested a private meeting. He seemed surprised to see her, but agreed to meet during his lunch break. Kate spent the morning at her desk, organizing every piece of evidence she had collected over the past 6 months. Camilla arrived late, as usual, wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than Kate's monthly rent. She shot Kate a smug look as she walked past, clearly expecting Kate to have given up. Kate gave her a small smile in return, which seemed to confuse Camilla. Good. Let her wonder what Kate was planning. At noon, Kate knocked on Mr. Henderson's door with a folder full of documents. He invited her in, looking tired and overwhelmed. There were stacks of papers on his desk and his coffee had gone cold. Kate felt a moment of doubt. Was she about to make things worse for everyone? But then she remembered the laughter, the humiliation, and she sat down with determination. She laid everything out. The threatening message from the night before. The emails where Camilla had taken credit for Kate's work. Testimony from other employees who had been bullied. Security footage timestamps showing Camilla lurking near Kate's desk when Kate was away. Mr. Henderson's expression grew darker with each piece of evidence Kate presented. He asked why Kate had not come forward sooner. Kate explained that she had been scared, that she needed this job, that she thought she could handle it on her own. She admitted that yesterday's public humiliation had been the breaking point. She could not work in an environment where she was constantly undermined and threatened. Either something had to change or she would have to leave. Mr. Henderson rubbed his temples and sighed deeply. He told Kate something she had not expected. She was not the first person to complain about Camilla. There had been others over the years, but they had all left before formal complaints could be processed. Camilla's father was a major investor in the company, which made things complicated. But threatening messages and sabotage crossed a line that even family connections could not protect. He promised to investigate thoroughly and asked Kate to be patient. In the meantime, he was assigning the Peterson account solely to Kate, with Marcus as her supervisor to ensure everything went smoothly. Camilla would be informed that she was being moved to a different project team while the investigation was ongoing. It was not the immediate justice Kate had hoped for, but it was a start. When Kate left his office, she felt lighter than she had in months. The fear was still there, lurking in the back of her mind, but it was mixed with something else now. Hope. Maybe things could actually get better. Maybe standing up for herself was not as impossible as she had thought. That afternoon, Kate saw Camilla being called into Mr. Henderson's office. Through the glass walls, she could see Camilla's face change from confusion to anger, to something that looked like fear. When Camilla emerged 20 minutes later, her perfect composure had cracked. Her makeup was smudged and her hands were clenched into fists. Camilla stormed past Kate's desk without looking at her, but Kate could feel the rage radiating from her. This was not over, not by a long shot. A wounded animal was often the most dangerous, and Kate had just backed Camilla into a corner. She would have to be careful, very careful. As Kate packed up her things at the end of the day, Marcus stopped by her desk. He asked how the meeting went, and Kate gave him a brief summary. He nodded approvingly but warned her to watch her back. Camilla did not take rejection well, and she had resources that Kate could not compete with. Money, connections, a father who owned part of the company. Kate understood the risks, but she was tired of being afraid. She had done the right thing by speaking up. Whatever happened next, at least she could look at herself in the mirror and be proud. As she walked to her car, her phone buzzed again. Another message from the same unknown number. This time it was just 2 words, but they chilled Kate to her core. The message read, "Big mistake." The investigation took 2 weeks, during which Kate felt like she was walking on eggshells. Camilla had been moved to a different floor, but her presence still haunted the office like a dark cloud. Kate would catch people whispering in corners, conversations that stopped abruptly when she approached. She did not know if they were talking about her, about Camilla, or about the whole messy situation. The threatening messages continued, though less frequently. They came at random times, sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes during her lunch break. Each one was vague enough to avoid direct blame, but specific enough to keep Kate on edge. One message mentioned her mother's address. Another referenced the route Kate took home from work. The implications were clear without being explicit. Kate reported each message to Mr. Henderson and to the company's security team. They traced the number to a disposable phone that had been bought with cash and never used again. No fingerprints, no paper trail, nothing that could definitively link it to Camilla, but everyone knew. They just could not prove it. Meanwhile, Kate threw herself into the Peterson project. It was the only thing keeping her sane. Mr. Peterson was a dream client, enthusiastic and trusting. He loved every idea Kate presented and gave her creative freedom she had never experienced before. Working with him reminded Kate why she had chosen this career in the first place. The joy of creating something from nothing, of solving problems with imagination and strategy. Marcus supervised her work as promised, but he mainly stayed in the background, offering advice when needed and letting Kate take the lead. He had been in advertising for 20 years and had seen everything. His calm presence was reassuring during the chaos. He told Kate stories about his own early career, about bosses who had tried to break him and colleagues who had stabbed him in the back. He had survived, and so would she. On the 15th day of the investigation, Kate was called into a meeting with Mr. Henderson and 2 people from Human Resources. Her stomach dropped as she entered the conference room. Had they found something that implicated her? Had Camilla somehow turned this around? Kate's mind raced through worst-case scenarios as she sat down. Mr. Henderson's expression was serious but not hostile. He explained that they had completed their investigation and found substantial evidence of workplace harassment and misconduct by Camilla. Multiple employees had come forward during the investigation with their own stories. It turned out Kate was not Camilla's first victim, nor even her most recent. There was a pattern going back years. The company was offering Camilla a choice. She could resign quietly with a severance package and a neutral reference letter, or she could be formally terminated for cause with the reasons documented. Either way, her time at Thompson Marketing Agency was over. Camilla's father had been furious, threatening lawsuits and trying to use his influence. But the evidence was too damning, and the company's legal team had advised that keeping her on staff was a liability they could not afford. Kate felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. She had won, but it did not feel the way she thought it would. There was no triumph, no satisfaction, just exhaustion and a lingering sadness that things had to get this bad before anyone took action. How many people had suffered before her? How much potential had been wasted because one person was allowed to terrorize others unchecked? Mr. Henderson apologized to Kate directly. He admitted that management had failed her and the others who had been hurt. They should have acted sooner, should have taken the complaints more seriously. He could not undo the damage, but he promised that new policies would be implemented to prevent this from happening again. Anonymous reporting systems, regular check-ins with employees, mandatory training for all staff on workplace behavior. Kate accepted his apology, but made it clear that words needed to be followed by action. She had lost faith in the company's willingness to protect its employees, and rebuilding that trust would take time. Mr. Henderson nodded solemnly and said he understood. He also mentioned that Kate was being promoted to senior marketing strategist, effective immediately, with a substantial raise in her own office. That should have been good news. The validation Kate had been working toward, but it felt tainted somehow, like a consolation prize rather than something earned. She thanked him politely and left the meeting feeling numb. When she returned to her desk, she found a small gift bag waiting for her. Inside was a coffee mug that read, "Strongest woman in the office," and a card signed by Marcus and several other colleagues. Kate felt tears prick her eyes as she read the encouraging messages. Maybe she had not been as alone as she thought. Maybe there were more good people in this building than she realized. It was a small comfort, but it was something to hold on to. Camilla cleaned out her office 2 days later. Kate heard about it secondhand because she made sure to be out of the building that day, working from a coffee shop on client calls. She did not want to see Camilla's face one last time, did not want to risk any final confrontation. Some people said Camilla had cried, others said she had left cursing everyone. Kate did not care. She just wanted it to be over, but it was not over. Not really. That evening, as Kate was walking to her car after returning to the office to pick up some files, she heard footsteps behind her in the parking garage. She turned to see Camilla standing there, her face twisted with rage and pain. Gone was the polished exterior, the perfect makeup and styled hair. This was someone desperate and dangerous. Camilla started shouting, her voice echoing off the concrete walls. She blamed Kate for everything. For ruining her career, for turning everyone against her, for destroying her life. Kate backed toward her car, fumbling for her keys with shaking hands. She tried to stay calm, to not show fear, but her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst. Security arrived within minutes, having been alerted by cameras that caught the confrontation. They escorted Camilla off the property while she continued screaming threats. Kate sat in her car, doors locked, trying to stop her hands from trembling. She called the police and filed a report, adding it to the growing file of evidence against Camilla. That night, Kate finally called her mother and told her everything. She had been keeping it all inside, not wanting to worry her, but the dam had broken. Her mother listened without interrupting, then said something Kate would never forget. She said that Kate had shown more courage in the past 2 weeks than most people showed in a lifetime, that she was proud of her daughter for standing up not just for herself, but for everyone else Camilla had hurt. Kate cried then, really cried, releasing all the fear and stress and pain she had been holding in. 3 months passed and life slowly returned to a new kind of normal. Kate moved into her new office, a small room with a window that overlooked the city. It was not much, but it was hers. She put up her diplomas on the wall, added some plants that she promised herself she would actually water this time, and arranged her desk exactly how she wanted it. Every morning when she arrived, she felt a small surge of pride. The Peterson campaign launched to great success. Mr. Peterson was thrilled with the results and immediately signed on for 3 more projects. He told Kate she had a gift for understanding what customers wanted before they even knew themselves. The praise felt genuine, not like the empty compliments Camilla used to give before stealing credit. Kate's confidence grew with each successful project. The office atmosphere had changed too. Without Camilla's toxic presence, people seemed lighter, more willing to collaborate. The whispers in corners stopped. Colleagues who had avoided Kate now sought her advice. She started mentoring 2 new junior staff members, determined to give them the support she never had when she started. She would not let anyone else go through what she experienced. But healing was not a straight line. Kate still had nightmares about that day in the conference room, about Camilla's mocking laughter echoing endlessly. She would wake up in a cold sweat, heart racing, convinced she had lost everything. Therapy helped. Her counselor taught her techniques for managing anxiety and processing trauma. Slowly, the nightmares became less frequent. Then one afternoon, Kate was having coffee with Sarah, a colleague from the design team who had also been one of Camilla's targets years ago. Sarah had left the company briefly, but returned after hearing about Camilla's departure. Over lattes and pastries, Sarah shared her own story. It was hauntingly similar to Kate's, the subtle sabotage that escalated into overt harassment. The feeling of being trapped and powerless, the fear of speaking up. Sarah had eventually quit, taking a job at a smaller agency for less money just to escape. She had spent years rebuilding her confidence, wondering if she was really as incompetent as Camilla had made her feel. Hearing that Kate had finally stopped Camilla brought Sarah a sense of closure she had not realized she needed. She thanked Kate for being braver than she had been. Kate protested that Sarah was not a coward for leaving. Everyone had to make their own choices based on their circumstances. But Sarah insisted that Kate had done something important, not just for herself but for everyone who came after. She had broken a cycle that had been going on for too long. That conversation stayed with Kate for days, shifting something in how she saw her own actions. Around this time, Kate heard through the industry grapevine that Camilla was struggling to find new employment. Her father's connections only went so far, and word had spread about why she left Thompson Marketing. Several companies had quietly withdrawn job offers after doing background checks and speaking with references. Camilla had been blacklisted, not formally but effectively. Kate felt conflicted about this news. Part of her thought Camilla deserved it, that this was justice for all the pain she had caused. But another part felt uneasy. She had never wanted to destroy Camilla's entire career, just to make the harassment stop. The vindictive satisfaction she expected to feel never materialized. Instead, there was just a hollow sense that nobody really won in situations like this. Marcus noticed Kate's troubled mood and invited her to lunch. They went to a quiet restaurant where they could talk freely. Kate confessed her mixed feelings about Camilla's situation. Marcus listened thoughtfully, then shared his own perspective. He said that consequences were not the same as revenge. Camilla had made choices that hurt people repeatedly over years. The fact that she was now facing the results of those choices was not Kate's fault or responsibility. He reminded Kate that she had not set out to ruin Camilla. She had simply tried to protect herself and create a safer workplace. What happened after that was a combination of Camilla's past actions catching up with her and the natural consequences in an industry where reputation mattered. Kate did not owe Camilla her pity or her guilt. Compassion was fine, but she should not let it diminish what she had survived. Those words helped Kate find some peace with the situation. She decided to focus forward rather than backward. She started working on a proposal for the company to implement a formal mentorship program and better channels for reporting workplace issues. Mr. Henderson was receptive to the idea and asked Kate to lead the initiative. It felt right, turning her painful experience into something that could help others. Then came the message that changed everything again. Kate was reviewing budget reports in her office when her phone buzzed. She almost ignored it, thinking it was just another work email, but something made her look. It was from Camilla. Not from an anonymous number this time, but from Camilla's actual phone. Kate's finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity won out. She opened the message. The message was long, rambling, and emotional. Camilla wrote that she had been in therapy and was starting to understand the damage she had caused. She did not ask for forgiveness, did not make excuses. She just acknowledged that Kate had been right to report her, that her behavior had been inexcusable. She said she was working on herself and hoped that one day she could make amends, though she understood if that was never possible. Kate read the message 3 times. trying to figure out if it was genuine or another manipulation. Camilla had always been good at saying what people wanted to hear. But something about the raw, unpolished tone felt different. There was no performative charm, no attempt to paint herself as the victim. Just a simple, painful admission of wrongdoing. Kate did not respond immediately. She saved the message and spent several days thinking about it. She discussed it with her therapist, with Marcus, with her mother. Everyone had different opinions. Some thought Camilla was still playing games. Others thought people could change. Her therapist suggested that whether Camilla was sincere or not, Kate got to decide what, if anything, she wanted to do with this information. In the end, Kate sent a brief reply. She acknowledged receiving the message and thanked Camilla for the apology. She said she was not ready for any kind of relationship or further conversation, but she appreciated the honesty. It was not forgiveness, not exactly, but it was acknowledgement, a small step toward letting go of the anger that had been weighing her down. The reply felt right the moment Kate sent it. She was not doing this for Camilla. She was doing it for herself, choosing to stop carrying the burden of hate. Whether Camilla truly changed or not was not Kate's concern anymore. Kate had her own life to build, her own future to create, and for the first time since that horrible day in the conference room, she felt truly free to do exactly that. 6 months after Camilla's departure, Kate found herself standing in front of a room full of advertising professionals at an industry conference. She had been invited to speak about workplace culture and handling difficult situations in creative environments. When the invitation first arrived, Kate had almost declined. The thought of talking publicly about what happened with Camilla made her stomach turn. But Marcus had encouraged her to do it, saying her story could help others facing similar situations. So here she was, looking out at hundreds of faces, about to share the most painful period of her professional life with complete strangers. Her hands were shaking slightly as she gripped the podium, but her voice came out strong and clear. She talked about the subtle signs of workplace bullying, about the importance of documentation, about the courage it takes to speak up when speaking up might cost you everything. The audience was silent, attentive. Kate could see people nodding, some taking notes, others with expressions that suggested her words were hitting close to home. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. During the question session that followed, person after person stood up to share their own stories of workplace harassment. It was overwhelming and cathartic at the same time. After the panel, Kate was surrounded by people wanting to talk to her. A young woman in her 20s, barely older than Kate had been when she started at Thompson Marketing, thanked her with tears in her eyes. She said she had been enduring harassment at her job for months and had felt too scared to do anything. Hearing Kate's story gave her the courage to file a complaint with her HR department. An older man, a creative director at a major agency, apologized to Kate on behalf of all the managers who had failed to protect their staff. He admitted he had ignored warning signs in his own company and promised to do better. Kate realized then that her story had power beyond her own healing. It was a catalyst for change, however small, in an industry that often swept uncomfortable truths under expensive rugs. That evening, as Kate sat in her hotel room reviewing emails, she received a message from an unknown number. Her heart raced for a moment, old fears resurfacing. But when she opened it, she found something unexpected. It was from someone who identified themselves as a former colleague of Camilla from before Thompson Marketing. They said they had been at the conference and heard Kate's presentation. The message explained that Camilla had exhibited similar behavior at her previous job, driving 2 talented employees to quit. Management had known but had done nothing because Camilla brought in clients through her family connections. The person writing felt guilty for not speaking up back then and wanted Kate to know that she had broken a pattern that had been hurting people for years across multiple companies. Kate sat with that information for a long time. It confirmed what she had suspected but validated something important. This was never about her personally. Camilla would have targeted anyone she perceived as a threat. Kate just happened to be the one who finally said enough was enough. The responsibility for stopping the abuse had never been hers alone, but she had carried it anyway. Maybe that was what courage really meant. Back at work the following week, Kate's mentorship program officially launched. She had spent months developing it, working with HR and management to create a system where junior employees had someone to turn to, where concerns could be raised safely. The response was overwhelming. Nearly everyone in the company signed up either as mentors or mentees. Even Mr. Henderson enrolled, saying he wanted to stay connected to the people who made the company run. Sarah became one of the program's most active mentors. She told Kate it felt good to help others avoid the pitfalls she had fallen into. Together they created workshops on recognizing toxic behavior, setting boundaries, and advocating for yourself. They brought in outside speakers, including a lawyer who specialized in workplace law and a psychologist who focused on professional relationships. The Peterson account continued to grow. Mr. Peterson introduced Kate to other business owners in his network, and soon she was managing multiple major clients. Her team expanded from just her to a group of 5 talented individuals. Kate made sure to foster an environment of respect and collaboration, where ideas were valued based on merit, not on who shouted loudest or had the best connections. One of her new team members was a recent graduate named Emily, who reminded Kate of herself 2 years ago. Eager, nervous, full of ideas, but afraid to share them, Kate took Emily under her wing, making sure she got credit for her work, encouraging her to speak up in meetings, protecting her from the kind of treatment Kate had endured. Watching Emily blossom and gain confidence felt like healing a part of Kate's own past. Marcus announced his retirement at the end of the year. He had been planning it for a while, but had stayed longer than intended to make sure Kate was settled and secure. At his farewell party, he pulled Kate aside and told her he was proud of how far she had come. He said he had seen her potential from the beginning, even when she could not see it herself. That was why he had encouraged her to fight back against Camilla. Kate thanked him for being the ally she needed when she had felt most alone. She promised to pay it forward, to be for others what he had been for her. Marcus smiled and said she was already doing that. He had watched her transform from a scared young woman into a leader who lifted others up. That, he said, was the best legacy anyone could leave behind. As the months continued to pass, Kate received occasional updates through the industry network about Camilla. She had apparently started her own small consulting firm, working from home with a handful of remote clients. Some people said she seemed different, more subdued. Others were skeptical that someone like that could truly change. Kate no longer felt the need to have an opinion either way. What mattered was that Kate had reclaimed her own narrative. She was not the girl who got laughed at in a conference room anymore. She was a senior strategist with a growing reputation, a mentor to young professionals, a speaker at industry events. She had turned her trauma into something meaningful, something that helped others. That felt like the truest form of victory. Kate's mother came to visit and tour the office. She met Kate's team, saw her private office, listened to colleagues praise her daughter's work and leadership. At dinner that night, her mother said she had always known Kate was special, but seeing her in her element made her heart swell with pride. All those sacrifices, all those double shifts, they had been worth it to see Kate thriving like this. That night, as Kate lay in bed reviewing her day, she realized something profound. She had spent so long defining herself by what Camilla had done to her, by the trauma and the fear. But that was not her story anymore. Her story was about resilience, about choosing to stand up, about building something better from broken pieces. The girl who had been mocked in that conference room was still part of her, but she was no longer the whole story. And that made all the difference. A year had passed since that fateful day when Camilla's laughter had filled the conference room. Kate was now preparing for the biggest presentation of her career. Thompson Marketing Agency was competing for a contract with an international brand worth millions. If they won, it would put the company on the global map. And Kate had been chosen to lead the pitch. The irony was not lost on her. A year ago, she could barely get through a presentation without her voice shaking. Now she was representing the entire agency in front of executives who flew in from 3 different continents. She had come so far, but the journey had cost her more than she liked to think about. The nightmares were mostly gone, but sometimes she still woke up hearing that laugh. The day before the big presentation, Kate received an unexpected email. It was from Camilla. The subject line simply read, "Good luck tomorrow." Kate stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Part of her wanted to delete it unread, to not let Camilla back into her headspace before such an important moment. But curiosity won out again. The email was short and straightforward. Camilla wrote that she had heard through industry contacts about the presentation. She wanted Kate to know that she genuinely hoped Kate would succeed. She said that watching Kate rise above everything that had happened had been humbling. It had forced Camilla to face truths about herself that she had been avoiding for years. She ended with a simple statement that she was sorry and would always regret how she had treated Kate. Kate read the email twice, then closed it without responding. She appreciated the sentiment if it was genuine, but she did not owe Camilla her emotional energy right now. Tomorrow was too important. She had worked too hard to let old ghosts distract her. She shut down her computer, did her evening yoga routine, and went to bed early. Sleep came easier than expected. The morning of the presentation dawned bright and clear. Kate dressed carefully in her favorite suit, the one that made her feel powerful and professional. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. This was not the scared girl who had joined Thompson Marketing. This was someone who had been tested and had come through stronger. Her team gathered in the conference room an hour before the clients arrived. They ran through the presentation one final time, checking every detail, anticipating every question. Emily, who had become one of Kate's most valuable team members, gave her a confident smile. Sarah, who had helped design the visual elements, squeezed her hand. Even Mr. Henderson stopped by to wish them luck and tell Kate how much faith he had in her abilities. When the clients walked in, Kate felt a familiar flutter of nerves. But this time, instead of paralyzing her, the nervousness sharpened her focus. She welcomed them warmly, made small talk to put everyone at ease, then launched into the presentation with confidence that came from knowing her material inside and out. She was prepared, her team was excellent, and their strategy was solid. The presentation went flawlessly. Kate handled tough questions with ease, her team members contributing perfectly when needed. She could see the clients nodding, making positive notes, exchanging impressed glances. When she finished, there was a moment of silence, then genuine applause. The lead executive said it was one of the most comprehensive and creative pitches they had seen in years. They would not make a final decision for a week, but Kate left the meeting feeling good about their chances. Win or lose, she had done her absolute best. That was all anyone could ask for. As her team celebrated with champagne back at the office, Kate stepped outside for a moment of quiet. She looked up at the sky and felt a profound sense of gratitude for everything that had led to this moment. The gratitude included even the painful parts. Without Camilla's harassment, Kate might never have found her inner strength. She might have coasted along, never testing her limits, never discovering what she was truly capable of. The experience had been horrible, yes, but it had also been transformative. It had shown her who she was when everything was stripped away. She was a survivor, a fighter, someone who chose to build rather than destroy. 3 days later, Kate got the call. They had won the contract. The client specifically mentioned Kate's leadership and vision as deciding factors. Mr. Henderson was ecstatic. The entire office erupted in celebration. Kate's mother called, crying happy tears. Messages poured in from colleagues, clients, even former professors who had heard the news through professional networks. That evening, Kate sat in her office alone after everyone else had gone home. She looked at the framed photo on her desk of her and her mother, at her diplomas on the wall, at the awards her team had won. She thought about the scared girl who had once stood frozen while cruel laughter echoed around her. She thought about the moment she had decided to fight back despite her fear. She pulled out her phone and did something she had not planned to do. She wrote a response to Camilla's email. It was brief. She thanked Camilla for the apology and the good wishes. She said she was choosing to move forward without anger, though that did not mean she had forgotten. She acknowledged that people could change if they did the work, and she hoped Camilla was genuinely doing that work. Then she wished her well and said this would be their last communication. Sending that email felt like closing a door that had been left slightly ajar. Kate had no illusions about reconciliation or friendship with Camilla. That ship had sailed and sunk. But holding on to resentment was exhausting, and she had better things to do with her energy. She was building a career, mentoring young professionals, creating positive change. Those things mattered more than keeping old wounds fresh. The international project officially launched the following month. Kate's team worked around the clock, collaborating with creatives from different countries, navigating time zones and cultural differences. It was challenging and exhilarating. Kate discovered she loved the complexity of global campaigns, the way different perspectives could create something truly innovative. 6 months into the project, Kate received an offer from a prestigious agency in New York. They wanted her to head their new creative division at a salary that made her mother nearly faint when Kate told her. It was everything Kate had dreamed of when she first entered the industry. But as she sat with the offer letter, she realized something surprising. She did not want to take it. Thompson Marketing was where she had nearly broken but had ultimately found herself. It was where she had built a team she cared about, where her mentorship program was helping young professionals thrive. Moving to New York would mean starting over in a new environment, leaving behind everything she had worked to create. The money was tempting, but it was not enough to make her abandon what she had built here. Kate declined the offer politely but used it as leverage to negotiate with Thompson Marketing. She asked for a partnership stake in the company, a seat at the decision-making table, and more resources for her mentorship programs. To her surprise, Mr. Henderson and the other partners agreed without much negotiation. They knew Kate's value now. Losing her would cost them far more than what she was asking for. At her first meeting as a partner, Kate looked around the table at the faces of people who now saw her as an equal. Some of these same people had watched Camilla humiliate her a year and a half ago without saying anything. Now they were asking for her opinion, valuing her input, respecting her expertise. The transformation was almost surreal. Years would pass and Kate would continue to grow. She would expand her team, win more major accounts, speak at conferences around the world. Her mentorship program would become a model that other agencies copied. Young professionals would seek her out, wanting to learn from someone who had faced adversity and overcome it with grace and determination. But on quiet evenings, when Kate sat alone in her office looking out at the city lights, she would sometimes think back to that conference room, to the moment when Camilla's laughter had tried to break her. And she would smile not with bitterness but with gratitude, because that moment, horrible as it was, had been the beginning of everything else. It had shown her what she was made of. And what she was made of, it turned out, was something much stronger than anyone, including herself, had ever imagined.